Welcome to Countdown to Classic. This is a podcast that educates, informs, and gossips about World of Warcraft Classic. Each week we discuss the news, hot button issues, and content of the highly anticipated World of Warcraft Classic. I'm your host, Josh Corbett, and this is a show where it's not my opinion on World of Warcraft that counts, but yours. If you're new to the show, Countdown to Classic goes through your expert input on everything relating to the sure-to-be-amazing World of Warcraft Classic. Now today, I had plans to do a forums episode on our favorite zones in World of Warcraft, but I have been absolutely smashed at work this week doing a lot of physical stuff, and I'm super tired and haven't had the chance to finish my notes on the vanilla zones. So I do apologize for that. But Josh, you might be saying, aren't you a lawyer? What possible physical work could be involved with that? Well, yes, I am, but I also happen to be employed by a mystery organization that needs me to keep up certain annual accreditations, so I can't go into too much more detail. But I do encourage you to guess who I work for, and it's not number 2, okay? So the forums episode will come at a later date, likely episode number 61. But what do I have in store for you today? Well, luckily, I usually have a surplus of calls here at Countdown HQ, so I'll play you a couple of great calls I took over the weekend from Stone over at wowchallenges.com, and also McRaptor, a member of the WoW Challenges community, all about pushing yourself in World of Warcraft and how we could spice up our classic WoW adventures by making them even harder. But just before we get there in a minute, let me remind you that if you're a fan of the show and you'd like the chance to voice your opinion about vanilla World of Warcraft to the world via a quick call on Countdown to Classic, then please do reach out to me via the show's amazing Discord or on Twitter at Count2Classic with the number 2, or email me at feedback@countdowntoclassic.com. You'll find all those links in the show notes for each episode. But with all that said, let's get started with Calling Countdown. Okay, we've got a caller on the line now, and who are we speaking with, and where in the world are you calling from?
Hi, this is Stone calling from Toronto in Canada, and from the WoW Challenges website. And I do stutter, so you're going to have fun editing that. You don't need to edit it. That's okay.
That's okay. No. I go back and I edit all the calls. It's all good. It's up to you. I don't mind leaving it in or taking it out. Now, Stone, thank you so much for calling in. We've obviously been in contact for a little bit now. We actually first organized this chat, I think, almost a month ago, and we're both, I'm sure, hard men to get a hold of, but we're here now, thankfully. And this is actually, I'm not sure if I told you this, but this interview that we're doing now was a request of a listener of the show, and I wasn't aware of your website, and a listener pointed me out and said, hey, have you seen what Stone is doing over at wowchallenges.com? And I said, no, I haven't heard of it. And I looked over at your site and it looks really, really interesting. And I'm really interested to dive into the topic of what might be coming with World of Warcraft Classic with regards to what your website does. So why don't you give people a little bit of an overview of you and what WoW Challenges is all about?
So basically we give players things to do between lulls in WoW. So basically, usually after raid tiers, but could be at any time. I do know a few people that don't really like how WoW is, and we are the only thing that keeps them playing like normal WoW. Basically, it's just we basically give people a hard method to level up a character. more or less. We have a bunch of rules, this and that, but that's generally what we do. I think we have 5 solo challenges that we do and 2 that are teams based. We were looking at one that was like a raid team thing, but that was a lot of work, and I could not imagine having to fix that when we had a new patch.
When did the website start up?
So our website started, I'm going to say 2013? No. 2014.
Okay.
Man, I can't remember. But there was a website before us that tracked the Ironman, and it was from the end of Cataclysm to the end of Missa Pandaria, and the person that had the website let it lapse, and they weren't going to do much with it, and I basically bought it off an auction. And because I knew, I was like, this Ironman stuff, you can't just let it die, right? So basically, I knew right off the bat that I was going to do Ironman and make sure that we could still have that live, but also give players more things to do besides Ironman.
Okay, so you've mentioned the Ironman or the Ironman Challenge. Now, just for anyone who might be listening who is not aware of what the Ironman Challenge is in World of Warcraft, please explain in as great a detail as you like what the Ironman Challenge is.
Okay, you basically level from 1 to maximum, and right now that's 110. In about 3 weeks, that'll be 120. You cannot get killed, ever. It doesn't matter if it's PvP, a bug, DC, it does not matter at all. You can't die. You also cannot wear any gear that's higher than white, so only gray and white gear. Can't pick talents. You can pick specs. Originally you could not, but Legion forced that on us. And thank goodness they did, because it actually, Legion was quite hard. And now that we have specs with the stat squish, it's actually... It's very, very hard. You can't do professions. You can't use elixirs or potions. You can't join a party. So it's more of a solo thing, and it's not a race to get to 110 first. It's more of, can you do this with these rules? And there is a bunch of rules, like you can't use any boosts and buffs and all that kind of stuff. But more or less, don't die. That's the big one.
That's the name of the game. Okay, so
yes.
You mentioned, obviously, there's a lot of rules and a lot of guidelines for players to follow when they're doing the Ironman Challenge. And I saw on your website that it looked to be the case that you do somewhat monitor players playing by the rules. Is it the case that you check in? How do you monitor people? Or is it self-policing?
For the most part, I'd say 80 to 90% of our rules, we can actually we can track it ourselves, and we apply flags when we see that players break rules, whether that's on purpose or not. We actually get the information from Blizzard through Blizzard's API, which everybody has access to. And we do the code on our side and create the lists. We cannot just go look for a character. You need to add your character. So that's the thing, is that you need to more or less add your tune to our site for us to track you.
So is that basically data mining the API, like the combat logs or something? What are the specifics that you look through?
It's not actually the combat log, because those can be faked. It's more the kills and deaths and quests that you do. That's on the Blizzard side. I do believe that some of the information was on the Warcraft website, and their latest website redesign, they actually removed a lot of that info. So we were worried at first that meant that they were going to actually stop tracking kills and all that stuff, because that would be really, really bad for us. But it is still there. So we can track everything from so you don't actually need to run things inside your WoW client. Like, we just get that from what Blizzard records off of you. So it's on Blizzard side. Okay,
so with all the rules that are there with the Ironman challenge, and you mentioned obviously this is a website that you inherited or you won through the auction, as you mentioned. With you running this now, my question would be, the history of the Ironman challenge, were the rules always this way, or are they tweaked over time somewhat, like what a sport might do?
We do tweak them. For instance, I did say that we used to not allow any specializations. So when Legion came, we didn't have any choice. So we had to allow that. Some other stuff that, we do tweak the rules if we have to. We want this to be hard. It's not meant for everyone to be able to complete it. So far this expansion, we've only got 30, I think. That's it. And we do need to make judgment calls based on what the new expansion will give us. So, for instance, this new expansion, we've had to make a judgment call based on war mode. Do you allow it? Normally, we would not, because it's a boost to XP gains, right? However, if you get that boost, you then trade off the fact that if you get killed by another player, you're dead. So we did allow it. So we do have to tweak things as we move along. We're not sure what we're going to do when Battle for Azeroth goes live. We're still kind of waiting to see what Blizzard does with some of the fixes that they say that they will be throwing in, even though that they're Band-Aid ones, but still, we will take anything.
Well, you mentioned one of the wrinkles that really intrigues me is obviously that deaths at the hands of a player clearly still counts as a death, and thus you failed the challenge. So is it the case that the Ironman challenge has to be done on a PvP server, or do you give players the option?
Previously, when we had the PvP servers, they said, can I do it on that? And I said, yeah, sure, you can. No one has ever made it to maximum on a PvP server. I believe I saw a streamer, I forget his name, but he got into Blade's Edge Mountains and he got ganked. And it was so quick. It was over that fast. And he was so mad. It's like, yeah, but don't roll it on a PvP realm, because that's what you're going to get, right? Typically, people usually roll on RP realms because there's not supposed to be as much server sharding, which can cause you to suddenly appear in a bunch of mobs that you thought were dead, now are respawned, and you're in big trouble because you have no way to escape. So typically RP realms are better, but PvP realms, not that they can do it now, but RP realms would be the best way to go versus a normal realm.
I was going to say, I'm glad you answered the question that was going to come next, which is basically, had anyone ever done it on a PvP server? And obviously you've answered that question now, but I can only imagine some of the stories that you must have heard of people getting quite far and just being absolutely devastated by being brought unstuck somehow via PvP or something else. But also, this isn't like your regular speed run. I've seen videos of obviously speed. I know it's not a speed run, but it's still a challenge of some sorts in terms of you go online, you see speed runners get quite far into a game. They're going for a world record and they just lose their shit when they get so far and something, silly happens and they have to start over again. And those are on like a speed run that could be, half an hour, or 3 or 4 hours, who knows? But then you've got the Ironman challenge where you could be, what are we talking? 100, 200 hours into a run only to be brought undone by another player. You must have heard some phenomenal stories.
Oh yeah, there's been tons of players that have died, and especially to actually funny and weird things too. So the person I'm thinking of, I think it's Cobra K. I think he died at level 68. There was another guy that was actually died on a PvP realm at level 87, got ganked. And it was, and I recall Asmongold, when he did his first Ironman run, he got killed due to a mob that was like you couldn't see it. It was actually in the ground, and it killed him. And there was not much that we could do about that. People die to sneezing. It's just weird things. It's just weird things. There's lots of ways to die. There's actually somebody in your chat right now that I was actually getting him to help me with some sound testing, and he was doing his Ironman, and he did actually eventually die. He says it's not my fault, but I know it was my fault. So if anybody hears this and you want to try this, I would say don't stream it, because it adds another aspect. As much as I will host you and love it if you stream it, it just adds another thing that you need to worry about is your chat. So sorry, Zords.
Okay. So one thing that you said at the very beginning of this chat that really grabbed my attention was you mentioned that you've got people now who seem to be purely still playing the game due to WoW challenges. And it's this competitive spirit perhaps that is pushing them to remain engaged with World of Warcraft. Tell me about how your community has built and the feedback that you get about what you do over at wowchallenges.com.
We've got a great group of folks. We actually, I'm going to probably jinx this now, but we typically don't get a lot of bad apples. Usually not. We're all there to help each other, right? So we do have a Discord. We actually have a set of forums that have posts from 2012, I think. I think now we are updating some of that stuff to be like, okay, don't worry about the old stuff. Let's post new things about quests that don't work and mobs that, will kill you in one shot and all that. But typically, it's only a handful of us that run the whole thing. But there's, I don't know how many people are on our Discord. But we've got a solid group of people that have been playing it from the beginning, that this is their game. Like this is how they play WoW. Like they do not play WoW any other way. And to me, every time I pay my bill, to keep my server up, I'm thinking, I'm helping to provide somebody a way to play that Blizzard is not. I would love for Blizzard to put in like a hard mode, like they have in D3, because for me, D3 hard mode, you die. That's it, man. You're done. So that's why I like this is that feeling of if you're dead, you're dead, like done. But yeah, we've got a great bunch of folks that like to help out, and I'm going to stop rambling.
No, that was fantastic. And I love what you're doing in terms of, I'm a big fan of thinking outside of the box and making different ways in which to make an old favorite game more enjoyable. And obviously that's what you're doing over at WoW Challenges. And I think it's fantastic. I've got so many questions flowing on from what you've brought up already. And you've already mentioned obviously that nobody has completed the Ironman challenge as per the records over at wowchallenges.com on a PvP server. But outside of that, do you know roughly how many people have completed the challenge and documented it with you?
Yep, I'm just looking it up right now. From what we could find on Cataclysm, there were 12 people that completed it. In Mists, there were 24, Warlords 25, and Legion 34.
That's great that it's growing as obviously the level cap is increasing. One thing I go from there is, what class is it that you find is the most popular one for people to take on the challenge with?
Typically, we have two frames of thought on that. One is go with the hunter. Go with a night elf hunter because you can do shadow meld. You have a tank with your pet, and you can kind of be back there and pew from far away. There is another frame of thought where play a class that you know, right? Even though it may not be like a hunter, play a class that you know, that you feel good with, and try that. And there's there's many views on which one is the best one to do. But honestly, I think from what I see, it's going to be hunter for sure. I would tell people try that first. If you don't like hunter, try something that you know and give that a go. Just to see how things feel. 'Cause things feel different when you're questing very high with only white gear on. It's a different game.
Oh, I can imagine. Now, interestingly, obviously when we go over and we look at wowchallenges.com and we start perusing the website a little bit, it's the case that the Ironman challenge is not the only little bit of fun that you offer over there. And can you tell the people who are listening basically what other challenges you've got and what some of the more popular ones might be?
We have 4 other ones that are solo that are basically like Ironman, but little tweaks on it. So we have one that's called Bloodthirsty that basically you cannot do any quests and you need to kill your way up to max level. So you have to kill boars the whole way up. Not just boars, but you got to kill things the whole way up. There's also a pacifist challenge as well, where you have to level up to max, where you don't kill anything, which is a whole nother different kind of way of playing. It's very. The other 2, one is Tin Man, which is sort of like an Iron Man but light. You can die, but we track how many times you've died, and it's more. That is more done for you to be able to level an Iron Man-like character and track your path so that once you're done, then you should, in theory, be able to take your iron and follow that path and watch out for those spots that you died, and hopefully you should be successful. The other one that we just actually added a couple months ago was called Green Man. Basically, it's like Iron Man. Exactly the same, except you can wear green gear. It was requested a lot, and it's very popular, even though I don't have it on my stats. I need to add that. So we also have 2 other ones called Iron Teams and Blood Teams. So Iron Teams is basically like the Iron Man Challenge, except that you're allowed to group with 4 other of your friends and level up together. And the Blood Teams is like the Bloodthirsty Challenge. It's just don't do any quests with your partners and just kill your way up. So those 2 are relatively brand new. There's more that I want to do, but we can't get the data from Blizzard. Like I would like to do a gold challenge, but Blizzard won't make that public.
So just if I could push you to go into a bit more detail with the ones that you'd like to do, but you haven't been able to. I think you just mentioned, was it a gold challenge? What would happen with that one?
Well, it just, I was thinking maybe like how fast could you go from nothing to like $1 million gold, right? Without having to mail yourself stuff from other characters and all that. The problem is Blizzard does not release any gold information to the public at all on any channel. So the only way that we'd be able to do something like that is if we had a add-on built in. But even then, data like that can be forged. And as much as I don't want to believe somebody, you know, I also, like, we also know that we've caught people trying to cheat. And it's very clearly that, you know, that they did something bad that, you know, maybe they didn't know. Okay. But, you know, for some, we find that people like to have their names glorified, right? Which is fine. It's just like for something like this, you know, like I don't want to doubt you, but I need to. I don't think I would be doing everybody else justice if I did not. And I just want to point out something that is said in chat here. When you cheat on a challenge run, you only cheat yourself. 100% accurate. Absolutely.
So on the notion of cheating, and you touched on the fact that obviously it can happen, realistically, how often would you come across it?
Not often, actually. So it's more when people start when we notice weird things, like people are leveling up like really, really quickly or have really low kill counts. And it's like, well, how are they leveling up so fast, even though they haven't killed anything? Do they have a pocket healer that's not in their group that's just trying to give them heals on the side? You know, that stuff. That stuff you can't really track. The pocket heals thing. You kind of can and you can't. It depends on the stats. But for the most part, I think people are honest. And I try not to doubt unless something smells fishy.
Okay. Now, I'm presuming, judging by what I've seen on the WoW Challenges website, that the Ironman challenge, everything you said is going to be copy and pasted essentially over to Classic when it comes out. Will that be the case?
Yes. So so I think the only change to the rules that we have right now would be that you can't pick a specialization.
Right.
I think everything else is exactly the same. You can't die, gray or white gear, no profs, except for first aid. That's fine. No potions. I think no talents. Yeah, I think the only thing that changes is the specializations. So that would be back to a not allowed.
God, I've really got to say the no talents one for me. I'm staring at that going, God, that is brutal.
It's honest. I mean, I think they have more impact now. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember what was it? The 41 talent tree, the 41 point talent tree. I think it was. I think it's going to be I think it's going to have a bigger impact on Classic than it would now, I think.
You mentioned earlier, and sort of thinking more in terms of Classic, let's say a whole bunch of people jump on and they want to sign up and do the Ironman challenge and report back to wowchallenges.com. And let's say a whole bunch of people complete the challenge. Does time factor? I know you said it's not a race or anything. It's just being able to say that you did it. But when you've got a bunch of people doing it, does time factor in at all in terms of separating, well, this person clearly did it quicker, so we'll put them at the top of the table, or anything like that? Do you know what I mean?
We do list the characters in the order of their completion. So if you are the first one to complete it, doesn't matter how long, you will be the first one up on the top of our list. And we go on from there for ties as far as level goes. We used to track how quickly it took somebody to level to 60. And we found maybe we were encouraging some unhealthy behavior because, in order to do that, you would need to, let me look at it right now. So the speed to 60, it took somebody just under 15 hours to go from 10 to 60. And this was pre-735 for sure.
Just under 15 hours, did you say?
Yeah, it's just, so it says 14 hours, 56 minutes, and 42 seconds. But that is also based on achievement timestamps, which means you need to be sitting at your computer for that whole time, which can be unhealthy. And as much as I'm not your mom or dad, I don't want to be the reason why somebody keels over because they didn't get up and walk around or something. We do not get access to /played. I've put in a dev request, but nothing has happened yet. Hopefully they would, because I would use that in a second.
Now, you mentioned a couple of times sort of working with the API and putting in dev requests and sort of getting in touch with Blizzard. Is Blizzard playing ball with you at all? Do they know about you? Have you spoken to them? Have you gotten a little bit more access than others to anything?
They are very clearly aware of us. Spoken by J. Allen Brack himself to me. I met him just at the banquet dinner because I was able to do that 1 year, and they are very aware of what we do. We've asked, I put together a document to say, what would be required or what would be nice to have if we were to do an Ironman challenge in game, and they can't promise us that, right? And I know that, but I feel like they know of us, they're aware of us. If they wanted to shut us down, they would. We certainly encourage people to play WoW. I play WoW besides Ironman. I think I play more normal WoW than Ironman stuff. So, we're just general. I wouldn't also say that we have extra access. I have the same access as another person that would have on Discord. I do let them know if I see a bug, and if they reply, they reply. If they don't, well, they don't. I've got 2 things open with them right now that I kind of feel like they're not going to touch, but I'm crossing my fingers.
Okay, so getting back to what might be happening with WoWchallenges.com and Classic, in terms of the Ironman challenge, you've got that all set up, good to go. Are there any other things that you're thinking about tinkering with or new challenges that you think might work well for Classic?
I don't know about. See, it basically just depends on what data Blizzard gives us, right? If they give us a copy of kind of what we have now, then I can do Ironman Classic, I can do Bloodthirsty Classic, I can do everything but a Classic version. I can do it. That's easy. I don't know if there'd be anything separate that I would do specifically for Classic that I couldn't do on a normal server. I can't really think of anything that would really pop out that would be, we can only do that on Classic. No.
Okay. So you've mentioned that obviously the site is growing and growing, which is fantastic. Are you hoping that the release of Classic again brings a bit of an influx of players back to the game, and by virtue of that, obviously they might find their way to WoW Challenges? Are you expecting that the site will grow a little bit upon that game's release?
I don't know about expectation. Okay, I've done the website more because I want to have it done, right? And I want to give people another way to play. It's, and I'm kind of the opinion that, if people want to play it this way, they will. And if people don't, then they won't. I would encourage somebody that if they were truly bored, to give this a go. And if it's not for them, then it's not for them. This is not something for a lot of folks, and I'm okay with that. I'm kind of good with where we are with providing folks a different way to play. I just want people to love WoW as much as I love WoW, because WoW is awesome.
Okay, a couple of fun questions to perhaps wind down this one with. And first I'm going to ask you, and you alluded to it earlier, just sort of in terms of things that you've always got challenge ideas forming in your head. If you had complete access, if Blizzard knocked on your door one day and said, right, Stone, carte blanche, you can have all our information, what would be your dream challenge to come up with?
If I had full access to everything, I would 100% do Ironman, 100%. Besides the teams one, I don't think that there's a better challenge, because it's you can kill if you want, you don't have to. You can quest if you want, you don't have to. You can do it any way that you want. You just got to get to 110 max without dying, and I think that in itself is a thing that should be put into WoW. And as much as I feel like I feel like people think that if this gets put into WoW, well, then my site's going to die. Honestly, I'll still track to see who's, made it and all this stuff, because I'm sure that they will put in an achievement and a feat of strength and all this, but I'm still going to do it until I can't. And I'm squirreling. So let's go back. Let's pull myself back to the question. Yeah, I would honestly do Ironman. That would be my first go. Ian, I know you listen, so hey man, I'm gonna be at BlizzCon. And I'm going to track you down. I will. I had to track that guy down this last year. Holy moly. It took me a bit, but I got him.
You're talking, I presume you're talking about Ian Hazacostas, is that right?
Yep.
So have you met Ian?
Yeah, just to talk, just as a chat. Nothing, definitely never anything that was formal or anything like, hey, yeah, we can't do this. It's always been a informal chat, because honestly, I would prefer, they work on WoW and give us great stuff. And if this is something that they think that they want to put dev time to, I am here to give them my code. I would give them my whole site. I'm like, here's everything we do. If you need to talk to me about it, I'm here. But yeah.
So just out of interest, a question flowing on from that, you said, Ian, you've met him, great guy. Tell us what your impressions were of Ian Hazacostas. What was it like to chat with him?
I would say very, very open guy, very funny guy, because when I finally caught him, he was like, oh no, you caught me. It was like it was funny. But yeah, he was a nice guy. Wasn't really for that long. Wasn't for as long as I would like, because, it's very noisy and all that stuff, because, the Hilton bar, I don't know if you've been to BlizzCon, but the Hilton bar is typically the area where everyone goes, and it is loud. So having a normal conversation not going to happen.
I'm going to BlizzCon for the first time this year, and I can tell you that I will
cool.
you will find me at the Hilton Bar a lot during BlizzCon. So I look forward to seeing it for the first time. It's one of those things you mentioned, like, you know, Ian, if you're listening, I always like to think, I'm like, God, I haven't heard anything. I would just die, and I would love to find out if anyone from Blizzard has caught any of the podcasts before. But yeah, I do hope it's great to hear that they are aware of you and your work, because you like to think that obviously the people making the game don't live in a vacuum, and they're aware of what other people are doing in terms of fun and interesting things, talking about what they're making.
Yeah. And it was, you know, and it wasn't, see, I was always worried about that, you know, we are trying to get people to play the game differently, right? Which is not the normal way to play WoW, which is you level up with heirlooms or not, and you do all these things, quests, blah, blah, blah. But we're trying to tell them, okay, but do it differently. And I was a little bit worried going into it that, you know, Blizzard might get mad at us and say, shut this down because you're encouraging players to use our game the wrong way. But they were not like that at all. So they've been very good with us. They've not told us to shut down. I'm very happy with that.
Fantastic. Now, Stone, I'll let you go out on a bit of a fun note here, and I want you to try and reach back into the memory banks and regale us with, whether it's 1, 2, 3, whatever you've got, regale us with some of the funniest stories that you've heard from players reporting back to wowchallenges.com about the trials and tribulations that they've gone through to complete some of your challenges.
I would say my co-host on our show, she got her first character up to level 60, and we all told her, you know, fly high, right? But then I said to her, well, don't fly too high, because if you fly too high and then you get kicked off your mount for some reason, you'll fall and you'll die. So I said, you know, maybe you should fly a little low. And so she did. But she flew low over the opposing faction's town, and they killed her one shot. So that was my fault. Sorry, Lita. And I'd say that, man, there's been so many. There's a fellow I know, Azzy, that said he was leveling a tune and left. So, and he had just been laid off, and he had gotten a call about a new job. And when he got back to the computer to take from his call, he found that he had actually left himself in a lake and he died.
Oh no.
So I mean, it's, you know, it sucks that he died, but well, he got a job, so that's good. So
it worked out.
I would say, I don't know, a third one. I'm going to have to bring it back to myself again. Poor Zords, you know, killing him, doing audio stuff. He says it wasn't me, but if you look at the clip, you will see that he's clearly distracted from playing and pulling different mobs, and then eventually just one too many get him, and he's like, oh crap, uh-oh. And I'm like, yeah, that was me. So, yeah. But there's many. And actually, at the end of every year, we actually go through a list of how we died. So we record all of our character deaths, and we list how they died or how we got them flagged. Like, I accidentally equipped blue gear. I thought I was trying to sell it to a vendor, but I was actually selling it to a trainer. Yep. So that was stupid on my fault.
Now, just out of interest, how much time per week do you spend on the website?
I don't know. It just depends. It depends if Blizzard changes anything. I think I spent when patch 8.0 came out, like big things like that. That's when I need to spend a lot of time to make sure that the data coming in is still the same. And mess things up. So I'd say on a normal week, maybe 2 to 3 hours, maybe. I mean, it's generally set up and good to go by itself. On weeks where there's lots of stuff, I'm going all night. Like it's just like I need to get it done, right?
Now, sorry, I keep lying to you and I keep saying one last question, but I promise this will be the last one. Just out of interest to take it back to where we were before, can you remember with any specificity sort of any moments where you really had to dive into and investigate someone that you later found to be cheating? So basically, what's the greatest cheating story that's come from WoWchallenges.com?
I can't actually think of one. I can give you an example, not of cheating though, and it's really bad timing. So basically, when you level up as a pacifist, you can't kill things, and we saw somebody hit level 100, which was max back then. And it was, oh, great, we got somebody new. But then it also showed that they had a kill. And it's like, oh, whoa, wait a second. Like, how did you hit 100 but also get a kill? So that must have happened at almost the same time. And we can't track that. Like we can't track when you get that kill until you log out. So you could get that kill right before you hit max. And then when you log out, all of the information is sent to us, and then we can check to see if you got the kill. So what we had to do, we actually had to get Blizzard to report on, can you tell us when did they get a kill versus when they got their achievement to hit level 100? And it turned out she had gotten the kill about 45 minutes before she had hit max, but didn't even know because of a thing called proximity kills, where you will get credit for a kill if somebody besides you kills something else. Could be a critter, doesn't matter. So it was like, wow, like I never thought we would have to ever go down that road. That's about, I think, the most interesting or weird, like max level kind of thing that we've ever really had.
Wow. Well, look, it sounds like a very involved process, Stone, and from the short amount of time that I spent looking through your work over at WoWchallenges.com, I think it's an amazing thing that you're doing. Like I said, I really do applaud people who think outside of the box and tinker with games to make them more enjoyable, and I think that the thought process that you're putting into WoW Challenges is fantastic, and obviously when Classic comes out, I would invite the listeners to go and check out WoWchallenges.com and see what Stone's doing over there, and see if you're interested at all in perhaps taking part in the Ironman challenge or one of the various offshoots that may be going on as well. So Stone, thank you so much for calling in. If you just please feel free to shout out, where can people find you online outside of WoWchallenges.com? Do you stream or anything like that?
I do stream with the Twitch website, but all that stuff is all up on our site. You can find me on Twitter at STONEGRASP. Like I'm grasping your stone. Sorry, I have to do that every time.
That's all right. Excellent. Well, look, Stone, thanks so much for coming on. I can't thank you enough. It was such a pleasure talking with you.
Thanks for having me on. This is great.
Okay, we've got another caller on the line now. And who are we speaking with, and where in the world are you calling from?
Sure. This is McRaptor, and I am from Chicago, Illinois.
Thanks so much for calling in, McRaptor. Now, for listeners of the show hearing this now, they might not realize we're doing this live on stream, and I just finished a call with Stone of WoWchallenges.com, and you were watching in and listening in on that stream, and you contacted me immediately after I finished with Stone and said you'd love to extrapolate on some of the points that he raised and why it is that you're a part of that community and why you love it. So while we're on topic, why don't you tell us how you got started and how you came across Stone's work?
Sure. Yeah. And I think I probably got introduced to what he was doing through his website, but I wouldn't have found the website without Lobos Jr., who's a fairly large streamer in the Dark Souls community. And if you're familiar with Dark Souls, it's a challenging game. It's an action RPG. You know, it's not an MMO, but there's a lot of similarities. And I think everyone's played Dark Souls or heard of it. Lobos likes a challenge. He would go in and do like fist only runs, right? Instead of using a weapon, or he would go through the whole game without dying. And that's like a whole thing in Dark Souls. It's like everybody does that. Like you don't do a normal run after you've done like 2 or 3 runs. Whereas in WoW, everyone just levels, right? And they just do the normal stuff. Well, Stone just created something. I don't even know how he got the idea, but it's genius. And it's basically taking that sort of like Dark Souls like challenge run and porting it to WoW. And so when Lobos jumped on it, and he'll have 2,000 to 3,000 people watching him. When he started doing that, I was like, damn, that looks really cool. I want to do that. And so that's how it started.
So what are some of the challenges that you've gotten involved with? I'm presuming that you've done the main sort of item on the menu, the Ironman challenge. Have you tried anything else as well?
Sure. So I haven't completed anything, truth be told, but I want to get back into it. But I did start out with Ironman first, and I had several characters that died at various stages of hilarity. It was like very simple things, right? It wasn't like you were like, oh, that was a bad idea. It was like, oh crap, I didn't even think about that contingency. And that's what happened on it. I personally think I like the bloodthirsty runs the best. They're more grindy, but I really don't care to do quests. Like I've seen all the WoW quests a million times. I really don't care about them anymore. So bloodthirsty to me, where you just like murder mobs, is just way more fun.
Now, what was one of the funnier examples, if you can recall, that brought you unstuck during a challenge?
Sure. I mean, it was, I think it was, I'm trying to think of what zone it was. I know it was in Kalimdor. It was essentially very similar to what Stone was talking about. Now, I wasn't 60, so I wasn't flying yet. But essentially what happened is I got too close to a horde base, and I got murdered by a level 60 guard. And it was just awful because I was doing so well. I was like level 42, and I was feeling good. And it was like, damn.
Were you playing on a PvP server?
I was not playing on a PvP server. I think that's impossible. I mean, you could do it now because there's no PvP servers, right? But yeah, I think it's impossible, especially on my home server, which is Tichondrius, which is home to like the most badass PvPers out there. Like people just would troll you to death. Like you would never make it.
Now, one thing I'd be interested to hear is Stone alluded to the fact that a lot of people involved in the community that he's created over at WoWchallenges.com basically purely playing the game still because of the challenges that he has helped facilitate. And perhaps if WoWchallenges.com didn't exist, they wouldn't be playing World of Warcraft anymore. Do you fall into that category, or do you find that it's definitely something that has helped spice up a game that you are way too familiar with at this point?
Right. No, that's a great question. For me, it's actually really nice to have something that's more solo focused. Like I know this is like a social game. It's an MMO, right? You're supposed to go and talk to people, raid with people, party with people, do all those types of things. But outside of just straight leveling, there's not a lot to do solo sometimes. And kind of going back to what Stone was talking about with Asmongold, if you look at his channel growth, and I'm more of a YouTuber at this point. I used to stream a little bit more, although we'll be probably a little bit more in the future. But I think a lot about content. And so it's like just beyond the game, right? And I'm thinking about like what's fun for people to watch. And it's kind of funny if you look at what people are watching in the WoW directory on Twitch now. they're watching people farm old mounts. Like, they're watching people do just like random stuff. Like, people don't even care anymore. Like, people used to care about seeing like really high end stuff. And when a new raid tier launches, people will be all about that. But people really don't care about PvP anymore. They don't care about high end raids. They just want to hang out and play WoW. And so they want to enjoy that sort of journey with somebody while they're playing at the same time. And I think the challenge run like this is perfect for that. It's very grindy. It lasts a long time, gives you lots of opportunity to talk about other things and to reflect on WoW and current events. I think it's perfect.
Out of interest, will you be playing World of Warcraft Classic when it releases, or are you happy over at retail?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll probably be spending about, equal time on both. I did dabble in like a Project 60 guild, so kind of like faux level 60. Mm-hmm. It's fun. It's not the same experience, so I'm kind of waiting for the real thing. But I think it's going to be great, and I think it'll go beyond sort of the classic experience. I think as players, we'll find new ways to experience the old content, so that it actually won't be like it was before. It'll be different.
Now, just if I can go back a half step, it seems like it's something that interested you, or you had a little bit to say on the way in which WoW is sort of streamed or consumed now on Twitch or on YouTube. Now, I think I heard you say you do a little bit of YouTubing yourself?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on the way in which WoW is presented now by the majority of streamers? And as you say, it seems to be some of the content that they go through is people will just perhaps watch anything. People aren't minding as long as it's just hanging out and play WoW. What would you like to see YouTubers or streamers do? Or do you think it's fine as is, just doing whatever?
I think it's probably fine the way it's evolved. I think I will say, though, given that I spent a lot of time in Dark Souls channels and Destiny channels, Warframe channels, other sort of RPGs, right? I feel like the content there on its face, if you were just to like mute the stream, is better overall. I think if you look at your average WoW video, you're not looking at much that's like really, it's kind of cheesy, but there's nothing that's wowing you, right? It's just like, a character, you're clicking buttons, you're collecting loot, you're whatever. And I think in terms of content creation, it really comes from the streamer or the YouTuber themselves and what they're adding to the conversation. And just I personally think it's become more of a hangout sort of content as opposed to like Fortnite, where you're showing like sick 360 no scope memes and, cool clippable moments. Like, there aren't a lot of things like that in WoW, unfortunately, but that's okay because it's a different animal.
No, I completely agree with you, and it does actually provide a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel for me, someone like me who will be streaming World of Warcraft Classic when it comes out, because it is all about the hangout, it's all about the chat, because I can guarantee people that what they'll be seeing on screen will not be very interesting, because it'll just be me dying and dying.
Yeah.
And it's funny because someone commented, sort of bless their heart, someone commented on one of my YouTube videos the other day, because I upload all of my podcast episodes to YouTube. And I've been using the same footage for like 3 months now, which is a stream that I did 4 months ago when I wasn't paying attention to what was happening in game. I was just chatting to everyone in chat. And in the footage, all you see is me dying and dying and dying to some like just ridiculous, a mob just sitting by the side of the road. And someone commented, "Who the hell is this idiot in this footage who can't play the game?" And I was like, that's me. Hi, that's me. And they said like it was triggering them and they got really upset. And it's funny because then I deleted the video, and it was only because I accidentally uploaded it in mono, and I was actually glad they commented on it, because that's the only way I could find out, because I didn't check the video after I uploaded it. And they wrote to me and they said, "Oh my God, dude, no, I was just giving you shit, but I'm so sorry. Please, I feel like a piece of shit now. Please put that video back up. I didn't mean to say all that stuff." And I was like, no, it's good. I'm re-uploading it in stereo. Thank you so much. But the point of this story is that People sort of don't believe me when I say that I'm not that great at the game. Like I do still regularly die to trash that you should not die to, which is why the Ironman challenge would be a horrible idea for someone like me. But I am interested in other little tweaks to it. So we'll be interested to see what Stone can come up with for Classic. And also, is there any suggestions that you might have for things that you'd like to see as challenges with Classic?
Sure. I think the only thing it's missing, and I don't have a solution. If I did, I would have sent a DM to Stone already. But I think what's missing is it would be nice if there were some slight tweaks to the challenge, or maybe there was a new challenge that made it a little bit quicker. One of the things that really works about a Dark Souls run, and again, I'm primarily, I grew up as a Dark Souls streamer, a lot of Dark Souls YouTube videos. I've kind of have a new channel, go in a different direction, but that's still in my blood. And in Dark Souls, if you're doing a deathless run, which is the equivalent of the Ironman, the longest amount of time you're spending is 3 to 5 hours. And so if you die, you're like, all right, it's back to character creation, no big deal. If you die in Ironman, it's a big freaking deal, which is good, but would there be any tweaks, some sort of quality of life tweaks that we could do to the run, even if you create a separate category that made it slightly easier to bear, right? An easier time to completion, not diluting the challenge, right? Not taking away what others have done, but finding a way to get a run quicker so that more people would be willing to participate. And then we could start talking about like who can do it the fastest. And then it's like a speed run category, which is a whole nother thing.
Now, I love the analogies that you're drawing to the Dark Souls series. I'm a huge fan of the Dark Souls series. I'm not like, I know there are a lot of people that have played it more than me, but I've played all the games. Dark Souls 3 is one of my favorite games of all time. But I've done this on the show before where, I think the listeners are okay with me getting a little bit off the beaten track of World of Warcraft at times because I am a gamer at the end of the day. I do what you all do. I play games. I try to spread my wings as far as I can. And so, and I know that I've got one listener of the show, an avid listener of the show named Minoru, who is an absolute diehard Dark Souls fan as well. And he has some really interesting chat on it. But if I could just ask you sound like a big fan, if we could somehow tie it into World of Warcraft, and I've done this with Magic the Gathering on the show before, what are some of the similarities or parallels that you would draw between World of Warcraft and Dark Souls if people haven't tried Dark Souls before? Sure.
Well, first off, the concept of a deathless run, of like a one life run, that's very Dark Souls like. Now that's not part of the normal game, right? Because in Dark Souls, you played it the first time and you die like a million times, right? You're like, oh, that sucks. Wow, not so much. I mean, yeah, you die a little bit at first, but then you kind of get better gear and you figure it out. The Ironman run really brings in that Dark Souls concept of you got one life, one opportunity, make it happen, man, right? And I think that's great. What's also great about WoW is there's a lot of customization, as there is in Dark Souls as well. And you're able to take that customization away. So when you talked earlier about talents, like, oh, you're going to take my talents away? I don't want to do this run. And trust me, I feel you there. I mean, taking talents away in this game makes it very difficult. But that's adding a challenge. And that's a very Dark Souls challenge-like thing to do. If you think about it, there's the biggest difference between doing like an Ironman challenge and a Dark Souls challenge in my mind is that the focus in a Dark Souls challenge is on the bosses, and in WoW it's on just the environment. It's like the regular enemies that could kill you anywhere, right? There's no bosses you're going to fight because you can't even go into a dungeon, right? And there's nothing out in the world that's super big and scary that's going to kill you. It's going to be that little tiny thing out of nowhere that kills you, right? Or like 5 tiny things. That, I think, is really the only difference. But beyond that, it's just really the time investment. How many people want to, like, I don't know how long it takes, actually, to do an Ironman run. But I'm assuming it's a really long time. And that's going to be a barrier for some people. And it would be nice, potentially, kind of getting back to the last question, if we could find a way to make it a little bit more, new player friendly, so that we could get more people involved. Not everybody, but more people involved.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you have streamed or you used to watch a lot of streams of Dark Souls. Have you engaged in any of those kinds of Dark Souls challenges yourself?
Yeah, I have. And so I took a liking to using bows in Dark Souls. I don't know what it was. I always liked Hunter in World of Warcraft. I liked Ranger types in other RPGs. I just thought it was fun. It's like kind of a way to practice your FPS skills while you're playing an RPG at the same time, right? And so I started out doing bow only runs, and so I would beat all of Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 with just a bow, and then that wasn't enough, and then I'd be like, oh, let's do it without dying, which was challenging, really challenging, because bows aren't really that good in that game. So I did all of that. I uploaded all that. That was great. And then there was another streamer who's quite a bit bigger than I am, and he was doing these no-hit runs, right? So he was going through all of Dark Souls without being hit ever, which you could probably never do in WoW, so don't even think about it. But the whole idea of, like, deathless isn't enough anymore. Now we got to go to the next level. That's what's so cool about Dark Souls, is that you can, like, conceptualize, like, not being hit ever by dodging correctly and, you know, good positioning. And so they did all that stuff. And then one of these streamers in particular was like, I'm going to do a no-hit run without being hit at all. And I'm going to use a bow, which is, like, just categorically inferior. And he did it. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. I'm never doing it, but that would be, like, the ultimate thing for me personally.
Yeah, I don't recommend the no-hit run for World of Warcraft. I think that's not going to last too long. Yeah. But no, I have seen the no-hit streams that you're talking about with Dark Souls. I forget the streamer's name, but he's amazing with what he does. And when you say something like doing bow-only runs in Dark Souls, I mean, even that makes me shudder. Like, oh God, some of those bosses I couldn't even imagine. Did you throw a few controllers through screens?
Yeah. No, you know, there's like a couple different types of challenge runners, right? There's the really calm and collected types, and you always look at them when they fail a run and they're like, it's okay, we'll just restart, right? And then there's the guys that are pretty good at kind of hiding their rage. And then there's guys like me. And I try to keep my stream pretty PG. Same thing with my YouTube channel. It's easier on YouTube. You can just edit out when you drop an F-bomb, but you know, it's I just can't control that. And, you know, everyone's different.
Now, as a final question, what I'll ask of you, McRaptor. I'm generally pretty PG. I'm fine with swearing. That's all good. Could you somewhat recreate one of the greatest meltdowns you've had while trying to do a challenge and swear away?
All right.
And what would have pushed you, like what happened in the game to get you to this point?
Sure. No, it's a great story. Probably the best one was in Dark Souls 1, which was like my first Souls game, so I was less experienced. I was doing the bow only run. I had already done a deathless run with a normal weapon, right? A sword or something. And I was like, let's do it with the bow. Why not? That's fun. And I literally get to the last boss of the game, which is Gwyn, the Lord of Cinder. He's a fire guy. He kind of looks like the Burger King guy. He's pretty silly looking. But he's the last boss, and ordinarily, you know, pros would like parry him, right? Which is like basically interrupting an attack before it hits you. It's really easy, actually, after you practice. But you can't do that with a bow because you got a bow, right? You can only shoot arrows at him. And I got into the boss room after this whole run, and it took like 4 hours. And I just had a total brain fart, man. I forgot how to fight the boss. Like 100% forgot how to fight him. And so I got in there and I just got trashed. And I was so fucking pissed, man. I was just so mad, dude. I was just like, what the fucking fuck? Okay. Now you told me I can go like full on, right?
Please,
so it's
go for it.
I was just like, what the fucking fuck? I go through 4 hours of this shit. Just, you know, doing everything perfectly, not taking hits, not dying, doing great. I get to the final 30 fucking seconds and I forget how to fucking fight the end boss. And I got to restart. And I restarted it and I got it the next day. So whatever. But it was rage. You know?
Very good.
But it was experience and it taught me a lesson. So.
Absolutely. It taught you how many F-bombs you could drop in a sentence in 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
sure,
the
man.
answer is 65. All right, McRaptor, thanks so much for calling into the show. I really appreciate it.
Sure, man.
Hope to speak to you again in the future.
All right, dude. Thank you. Bye.
And with that done, now it's time to go through some shout outs and let you know what's happening for the next episode. So quick shout out to the Countdown to Classic Council. And that is Borzen, Flosy B, Raidmar, Palfurus, Permadrunk, Rarebit, Tsunami, The Anton, Wilson Ma, and Velarco. Thank you so much for your phenomenal support of the show. Countdown to Classic would not be the same without your support. And also a big thank you to supporters Bossman764, Hurlbert, Good Kisser, Myrtlebanks, and Purgatos81 as always. Now, the next time you'll hear from Countdown to Classic will be on Monday morning Eastern Standard Time. And that will be the show's 60th episode. We're dinging 60 here at Countdown to Classic, and we will celebrate like the milestone it is, with the great changes versus no changes debate, which was a lot of fun, which I held recently on stream, and I do hope that everyone listening to this episode will join me for episode number 60. And even better, I do hope that if you haven't done so already, you might tap a fellow WoW player on the shoulder and be kind enough to say, hey, check this podcast out. This crazy Aussie guy has done 60 episodes all about World of Warcraft Classic in 4 months. And hopefully we can build this listener base and get more and more fun listener submissions and build on the content of the show together as we move forward. So if you're a listener of the show in any capacity, be it casual or diehard Countdown fan, please do stop by as we celebrate everything amazing about World of Warcraft Classic, the community, and the amazing listeners of this show in episode 60. Unlike Classic, however, we won't be stopping at 60, and I can't wait to reach that level and go beyond with all of you who have shown such amazing support over the last few months. I can't wait to speak to you all then on Monday, and I truly hope you all have an amazing weekend. See you, everyone.